Hello everybody and welcome back to the Cage Corporation. It's me, it's Liam, the Rare Hunter. It's been a while since I've discussed anything with you, but I think this one is something that's worth coming out of the proverbial cave for, and that is the announcement that I've just seen of the PlayStation Classic direct from Sony's blog on the US, on their US website. And it is announcing the PlayStation Classic with 20 preloaded games, so obviously spring-loading off the success of the NES and SNES minis and the Mega Drive Classic as well. And as you can see right there, straight off the bat, they're announcing Final Fantasy VII, Tekken 3, Wild Arms, and 17 other legendary titles, which they clearly haven't gotten around to figuring out what those are yet. If we scroll down a little bit here, there's some guffins about how the history of the PS1, which I know, so I don't need to read. And this is irrelevant for a lot of people, but as a little bit of a nerd myself, that is some really accurate packaging for the PS1 and how it would have looked in 1995. So that's pretty cool in of itself. Now if we scroll down a little bit here, there's a trailer. I won't play it. I haven't even watched it yet because I was so excited to share this news with everybody that I haven't gotten around to doing so. But I'll link that put a link to that in the description there. Now here is a little bit more of the details of the machine itself, where it mentions that it's going to be approximately 45% smaller than the original PlayStation. That's kind of cool. I guess that makes sense. The PS1 is a little bit on the big side. But, I mean, it's not huge as far as video game consoles go, but I guess having that full size is going to be considerably lighter. I'm assuming these games are not going to be running off a CD, and there won't be an availability to do so. Gamers who might be new to the platform, okay, I can't imagine many people that will pick up a PS1 Classic otherwise, other than the nostalgia types. Then we see that it comes with 2 digital controllers, not analog. I think that's kind of interesting because the PlayStation 1 definitely had analog support, and there are quite a few games that certainly benefited from it, so a bit of a weird decision to include analog pads. Now, as it is, we can see this is a USB, it comes with a USB cable, which by the looks of the picture up at the top, if you look at the slots under where the memory cards would be, that's clearly a USB slot and not an original controller port. Now that's kind of annoying for me, because if I was to go out and purchase this right now, I have like 5 of these already. I don't need another 2 PlayStation digital controllers. I've literally got about 5, maybe even more, tucked away. So I really don't feel that's necessary. And also, again, what about the analog pads? But then it might have support for PS4 controllers. Who knows? Because it is a USB connection. So that could be a moot point. I don't know upon consideration. But as we can see, obviously it has a HDMI port as anticipated, and does look incredibly accurate to the original PlayStation, which they emphasise a little bit more down here. Now it's been announced to come out in the North American territory. In America and Canada. It's actually available for pre-order right now in the USA, across the pond. But here in the UK, it says here I can visit the PlayStation.com website for more details on regional availability. And stay tuned to the blog for the full lineup of titles coming to the PlayStation Classic. But as it stands, the recommended retailer price is $100, which, if I translate that to normal money, is about 60 quid. And it says here it's going to come out on December the 3rd. Now, I'm kind of hoping that that's a little bit more worldwide, because December the 3rd is pretty tight to Christmas as it is, and clearly intended to generate a rush for Christmas, which I can completely understand. But I'm kind of hoping that there's not going to be the problem we had with the NES and SNES classics, which is to say shortened supply. And that's really it for their details. And for me, this is interesting because, of course, it's really cool that they're doing it. Clearly spring-loading off of certain games like the NES Classic, the SNES Classic, etc. My reservation about a lot of these classic consoles is that the selection of games is kind of limiting. In the case of... because it's kind of strange, because comparative to, say... the Nintendo Entertainment System Classic or the Super Nintendo Classic, that is clear first-party supported games, so they can put a lot of their, like, Super Mario's 1 through 3, for example, the 2 Legend of Zelda games, yada yada, on the NES Classic. They have a lot of strong, obvious choices. With the PS1 Classic, the PS1 has a library of over 5,000 games across all territories, and I think that's really difficult to narrow down some of the best ones to 20. And of course, it does bring in. The PS1 had a lot of strong third-party games, and if you were to ask me to pick 20 classic games for the PS1, well, I don't think I'd have picked Jumping Flash and Wild Arms. I mean, I've never played them. I certainly would have put Tekken and Final Fantasy VII on. That makes perfect sense, but I would have gone for games like Resident Evil, Silent Hill, Tomb Raider, probably Crash Bandicoot, although that might be a conflict of interests because of the old... recently released Insane trilogy, so it depends on whether or not we'll see that. Of course, Spyro, and I would have gone for something like Wipeout, Wipeout 3, or maybe Wipeout 2097. I think that generally seems to be the fan favourite of the original trilogy, stuff like that. So we can speculate at this point, and really that's all we can do for the most part, is speculate. But I think the game selection will really define whether or not I purchase this console, because if it is at, say, 60 quid, I already own a PS1, as mentioned, and I've got so many games for it already. I'm not sure if I'd necessarily need something like this unless it gives a lot of games that I don't have, making it a cheaper option for me to purchase. I mean, I can imagine something like Metal Gear Solid, say. Well, if Metal Gear Solid, I already have Metal Gear Solid and Metal Gear Solid Special Missions. I already have Final Fantasy VII. I can quite easily get Tekken 3 for not that much money. I can get stuff like Wipeout 3, or I have it, Crash Bandicoot, Resident Evil, Silent Hill, blah, 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 blah. Those are the classics that I would have on a PlayStation Classic. So I'm not sure if for people who already own a PS1 and have a lot of games for it, I'm sure it's not really a massive deal. And now, of course, the other thing to consider is that a lot of these games are probably quite cheaply available on the PSN store. Now, I'm not a massive... I don't use the PSN store anywhere near as much as other people, and I haven't been on it in donkey, so I don't know what the typical price of PS1 games are. Essentially, if it's not a good selection of games, then it's not going to be worth purchasing. I guess, you know, that's sort of speaking the obvious. But that's a PlayStation Classic right there. It looks cool. It's definitely, you know, jumping on a bandwagon, but it could offer something different. Depends it really does come down to what kind of games they're going to put on there. So, speaking of which, speculate down in the comment section below what you think you'd like to see on the console, or what you think they'll put on the PlayStation Classic. And if you really want to, there will be a link in the description to watch the trailer, and there will also be where are we? Oh, the AC adapter is sold separately. Ooh, they don't sell the AC adapter on its own. Oh, that's it, deal breaker, not buying it. But yeah, so let me know down in the comment section below, and if you like this video, give it a like, so I know you liked it. Let's let this peter out. Right, thank you very much for watching, and I shall see you soon. Arrivederci.